Misconfigured certificate templates. Spectre Ops released an exhaustive white paper in 2021 which provided an in-depth examination of Active Directory certificate services. The paper delved into the intricacies of ADCS, including its potential misconfigurations and vulnerabilities that could be exploited for activities such as credential theft, domain escalation, and achieving persistence within a network. Furthermore, this comprehensive document not only detailed attack techniques targeting ADCS, but also provided valuable guidance on how organizations could proactively prevent, detect, and respond to such attacks. This module does not cover all the attack techniques described in the original white paper. For that, refer to the ADCS white paper. For a comprehensive grasp of the topic, it is advised to examine both the complete white paper and a summarized blog post written by Will Schroeder and Lee Christian. You can find links to both resources in the description below. Before diving into vulnerabilities, let us take a brief look at certificate templates. Active Directory's certificate templates offer an effective method of quickly creating certificates with specific features and applications. Administrators can utilize these systems to define the rules and settings governing certificate issuance within their organization. Here's an overview of their key features. Let's start with certificate properties. The first one, certificate templates contain templates that enable certificate holders to clearly define their subject matter, providing identity to whom it has been issued. This could include information such as the user's name, email address, or any other distinguishing feature. The next property is validity period. Administrators can set an expiration period for certificates issued from templates to ensure their security needs are consistently addressed through renewal. The next property is key uses. Templates may limit or restrict what kind of cryptography operations a certificate can be used for, including digital signatures and encryptions, or both. The next property we have is enhanced key uses, in short EKU. EKUs allow certificate owners to further customize its use, specifying applications or services which accept it. Now let's look at authorization. Certificate templates specify which users and groups can request certificates based on this template. This authorization can be set at both the certificate authority level and the template level. Authorization for certificate requests within Active Directory certificate services involve two key components: configuring access control and security settings on certificate authority object and defining authorization rules within certificate template objects. Administrators can exert control over who is authorized to request certificates from a specific CA by configuring access control lists or security descriptors on the CA object. This method allows for broad control at the CA level. Additionally, administrators can exercise fine-grained control by specifying which users or groups are permitted to request certificates based on a particular template. This authorization is set within each certificate template, ensuring that only designating individuals or entities can request certificates with specific properties and purposes. These dual authorization mechanisms enable organizations to tailor their certificate issuance policies to meet security and compliance requirements effectively. Let us now look at misconfigurations in certificate templates and how these can be leveraged to escalate privileges in the domain. Since these techniques are used to escalate privileges, the authors have termed these as ESCs, misconfigured certificate templates. ESC1. In a particular configuration scenario, certificate templates may face significant vulnerabilities, potentially providing ordinary domain users with equivalent privileges to domain administrators. This vulnerability arises when the following conditions are met. The first condition is the enterprise CA authority allows users with low privileges to request certificates. This means that the CA setup permits users with limited rights to ask for certificates. The second condition is that manager approval should be turned off. This means that there is no need for someone with CA manager permissions to review and approve requested certificates before they are issued and therefore gets auto-approved. The third condition is that no authorized signatures are necessary. This means that a certificate signing request doesn't have to be signed by an already authorized certificate. And the fourth condition is that the security settings for the certificate templates are too permissive, granting raw privileged users the ability to enroll for certificates. These enrollment rights let users with low privilege request and obtain certificates based on the template. These rights are controlled by security settings in the certificate template's Active Directory object. A discretionary access control list contains specific access permission necessary for enrollment managed through access control entries. The next condition is that the certificate template specifies what it can be used for by defining enhanced key uses. These extended key uses comprise client authentication, PKI init client authentication, smart card logon, and any purpose or none. The certificate template's AD object lists these EKU in its PKI extended key uses property, which is an array of strings containing the identification codes for the allowed EKUs. Additionally, the template allows those seeking certificates to include subject alt name information into their certificate signing request. This is important because during Active Directory authentication, the Active Directory uses the identity specified in the certificate subject alternate name field if it is present. So if someone is making an request can specify the SAN in their CSR, they can effectively request a certificate as any user, including a domain administrator. The certificate template's AD object determines whether requesters can specify the SAN, and it does so through its MSPKI certificate name flag property. This property works using a set of flags, and if the CT flag enrollee supply subject flag is set, it means that a requester can indeed specify the SAN. Let us see how we can exploit this misconfiguration to gain privileges in the domain. We will be using the tool CertifyAD, which already comes pre-installed in Kali to enumerate and exploit vulnerable certificate templates in our domain. The first step is to identify vulnerable templates. For this, we can use the find module of CertifyAD. Then we can specify -u flag for username, which is pentester@secure.local. Then we can specify the password with -p flag, which is exclamation vampires. Then we can specify other flags which are vulnerable, enabled, and std out. The enabled flag only shows templates that are enabled for the user. The vulnerable flag identifies vulnerable templates, and the std out flag displays the output directly onto the terminal. We can also specify DCIP along with the command. We can see that there are a lot of misconfigurations pertaining to certificate templates as well as certificate authority. We have ESC1, then we have ESC4, ESC2, we have ESC3, ESC7, ESC8, and ESC11. We will discuss each one of them as we go along. For now, let's focus on ESC1. Let us run the find command again and scroll down to the vulnerable template named as ESC1. Here we can see that the enrollee supplies subject flag is enabled, which means that the users of groups that have enrollment rights on this template can request a certificate on behalf of any user in the domain. We can also see that the EKU has client authentication set, and the authenticated users group has enrollment rights on the template. When you consider all these factors together, a malicious actor could request a certificate impersonating anyone within the domain, even a domain administrator or a domain controller. With this certificate, they could obtain a valid granted ticket for that user, essentially gaining unauthorized access and control over the targeted user account. We will now exploit this to generate a certificate for the domain administrator godfather, ultimately retrieving the user's hash, which is NTLM hash. We will use the request module in the certify to do this. Before that, we need to copy the CA and the DNS name, which could be used in the command. Scroll up to the CA and copy the CA name. The DNS name is our DC's fully qualified domain name. Now we can run the request module along with the username and the password, specifying the CA name with the -CA flag. We can specify the DNS name as well with the target flag, the vulnerable template name with the dash template flag, as well as the name of the user whom we want to request the certificate for with the dash UPN flag. Here the domain admin Godfather. Also specify the DCIP. This requests the certificates of domain administrator Godfather and saves it as a PFX file, as we can see that. Let us now request a TGT with this certificate and extract the NTLM hash of domain administrator Godfather. We will use the auth module to do so. Run the certify with the auth module and pass the certificate generated with using the dash PFX flag along with the DCIP. This gets the TGT for the user and then retrieves the NTLM hash of the user, thereby gaining control over the domain. In summary, this configuration scenario can create a significant security risk by potentially giving regular domain users the ability to request certificates with elevated privileges, essentially bridging the gap between them and domain administrators. Let's talk about ESC2. The second abuse scenario is a variation of the first, occurring under these conditions. The first one, the enterprise CA allows raw privileged users to enroll for certificates. Next, the managerial approval should be disabled. Third, no authorized signatures are necessary. And the fourth, a permissive certificate template security descriptors grants enrollment rights to low privileged users. And the final condition is that the certificate template specifies the any purpose EKU or has no EKU. While these templates can't be used for requesting authentication certificates for other users without the CT_flag_enrollee supplies subject flag, they are inherently risky. To clarify, an attacker can exploit a certificate with any purpose EKU for various purposes, such as client authentication, server authentication, code signing, and more. On the other hand, a certificate with no EKU can be used not only for any purpose, but also to sign new certificates. With a subordinate CA certificate, an attacker could specify arbitrary EKUs and certificate values in new certificates. Since the exploitation of ESC2 is same as that of ESC3, we will look at the latter and see how to exploit them. Let's talk about ESC3. The third abuse scenario shares similarities with ESC1 but exploits a different EKU and involves an extra step for misuse. To abuse this misconfiguration, the following conditions must be met. The first one, the enterprise CA grants low privilege users enrollment rights. Then second one is that manager approval should be disabled. The third condition is that no authorized signatures are required. The fourth condition is that an overly permissive certificate template security descriptors grant certificate enrollment rights to low privilege users. And the final condition is that the certificate template defines the certificate request agent EKU. The certificate request agent EKU allows for requesting other certificate templates on behalf of other principals. And the final condition is that enrollment agent restrictions are not implemented in the certificate authority. The enrollment agent EKU allows one user to request a certificate for someone else. When someone uses this EKU, the resulting certificate can co-sign request on behalf of any user if certain conditions are met. This works for different certificate templates and assumes that there are no restrictions on the certificate authority. Let us see how we can abuse this misconfiguration to get domain admin. As always, let us look at the vulnerable template using the find command. We can see that the template named ESC3 has the certificate request agent EKU, as well as any member of the authenticated users group has enroller rights to the template. There are two steps to exploit this vulnerability. First, we need to request a certificate based on the vulnerable template. We will use the request module to request this certificate. The initial syntax is same as that of ESC1 with the username, password, CA and target, as well as the vulnerable template which is ESC3 and the DCIP. This requests a certificate for our user pentester using the vulnerable templates and save it as a PFX file. This certificate is our certificate request agent certificate. Now, using this certificate, we can request another certificate on behalf of any user. Again, we will use the request module along with the username, password, CA and the target. This time we will use the user template and specify the name of the domain admin user, which is Godfather, whose certificate we are requesting using the on behalf of flag. Also, we need to pass the generated certificate request agent certificate with the PFX flag. Now we will extract the NTLM hash from the certificate of the domain admin using the auth module. ESC4. Security settings within certificate templates determine which Active Directory users and groups have permissions over it. If these settings are misconfigured, it means that there are access control entries that unintentionally grant unauthorized or unprivileged users access, the ability to modify critical security settings within the template. In simpler terms, if an attacker can manipulate the access permissions in a way that allows them to make unauthorized changes to a template, it can lead to security compromises within the domain. The specific access control rights for the template that should be taken care of from a security perspective are full control, right owner, right decal, and right property in the certificate template. Let us identify such misconfigurations with the templates in our Active Directory. We will be again using the find command to identify vulnerable templates. As we can see, a template named ESC4 has excessive ACEs assigned to it. Specifically, authenticated users have right owner, right decal, and right property privileges on this template. Since we have these rights access to the template, we modify the template to make it vulnerable to ESC1 by overwriting it. Certified does this by default using the template module. We can run the module with the flags username, password, the vulnerable template along with the flag save old along with the DC IP. This makes the template vulnerable to ESC1, ESC2 and ESC3 as well as save the old configuration to a JSON file, which we can use to restore the template to its previous configuration. We can confirm it by running the find command again to observe that the ESC4 template is now vulnerable to ESC1, ESC2 and ESC3. Now we can use the same command used to exploit ESC1 to request the certificate for the domain admin Godfather. Once we get the certificate, we can use the auth module to retrieve the NTLM hash of the domain admin, which is Godfather. We can then use the template module along with the flag configuration to specify the JSON file of the template that certify had saved. Once again, let us run the find command to observe the template. We can see that the settings have been restored to what they were initially. Organizations must understand and address these misconfiguration issues within their ADCS infrastructure to bolster their network security. Regular security assessments, monitoring and adherence to best practices for configuring CS settings and certificate templates can help mitigate the risks associated with these abuse scenarios.